My friends, let me ask you something. How many of you wake up on Monday morning, look at your calendar, and immediately feel overwhelmed? Or worse, completely directionless? Too many people are running into the week, hoping it all somehow works out. And I want to tell you today, that's not how high performers, leaders, or joyful human beings live. If you want to feel alive, if you want to feel in control, if you want to feel like your week truly matters, you must plan it, because clarity creates confidence. The moment you sit down and decide what matters this week, you feel stronger, calmer, more certain. Suddenly, you're not guessing anymore. You're moving forward with purpose. Clarity is power, and the weekly plan is where clarity comes alive. Now, here's the truth. Time doesn't manage itself. If you don't decide what you're going to do, life will decide for you. Emails, texts, endless scrolling, other people's demands, they will consume your entire week. But the person who wins is the one who steps into Monday with a plan, with boundaries, with intention. That's how you reclaim control over your life. And let's be honest, progress doesn't just happen. Success is not an accident. Progress requires intention. You have to ask yourself, what are my top 3 priorities this week? What are the projects that will actually move the needle? When you plan with those questions in mind, you stop being busy and you start being effective. And that difference, that's what changes careers, businesses, and lives. But here's what most people don't realize. Momentum is manufactured. It doesn't just magically appear. You create it by showing up consistently, day after day, following through on what you said you would do. A weekly plan is like setting up dominoes. You line them up in order, so when you hit the first one, the rest fall beautifully into place. That's how you create rhythm. That's how you create flow. And I know some of you are thinking, but planning feels stressful. No, what's stressful is winging it. What's stressful is looking at an endless to-do list and having no idea where to start. Structure is not a cage. Structure is freedom. Energy comes from structure. When your week is organized, your mind is free to create, to innovate, to enjoy. Instead of reacting all the time, you actually have space to breathe. Finally, the most important reason to plan your week, alignment builds fulfillment. When you plan, you get to ask, does this week reflect my values? Am I making time for my family? Am I protecting my health? Am I working on what matters most to me, not just to everyone else? That's how you experience joy, not just productivity. That's how you live a life that feels on purpose. So my friends, don't leave your week to chance. Don't roll into Monday hoping it all works out. Sit down, grab a notebook, grab your calendar, and design it. Plan with clarity, choose with intention, build your momentum, free your energy, and align with what truly matters. Because when you do, your weeks don't just pass by, they become a powerful, purposeful, and fulfilling journey forward. That's why you must plan your week. Imagine walking into your week like you're walking into a room filled with fog. You can't see more than a few feet in front of you. So every step feels uncertain. You're cautious, maybe even a little anxious, because you're not sure what's ahead. That's how most people live their weeks. Wandering into Monday morning without a plan, hoping clarity somehow arrives. But clarity doesn't just show up. Clarity is something you create. And when you do, when you take the time to plan, that clarity becomes your confidence. Think about the last time you had a really clear day. You woke up knowing exactly what mattered, you had your priorities straight, your schedule aligned, and you moved through the day with momentum. Wasn't that a completely different feeling than the days where you just kind of stumbled from task to task, responding to whatever hit your inbox first? That difference is everything. That difference is what separates the people who thrive from the people who barely get by. Clarity is the bridge to confidence, and confidence is the fuel to progress. Most people aren't struggling because they lack ability. They're struggling because they lack clarity. They know they want more in life, but they haven't taken the time to define what more even looks like. And that's why the weekly planning ritual is so important. When you plan your week, you're not just writing down tasks. You're declaring who you are, what you value, and how you intend to live. That clarity brings a kind of strength you can feel in your body. It's like standing taller, breathing deeper, and saying, I know what I'm about this week. The reason clarity creates confidence is because your brain craves certainty. When it doesn't have a clear target, it spins in doubt, fear, and distraction. It tries to solve problems that don't even exist yet. But when you say, these are my top 3 goals this week, this is when I'm doing them, this is how I'll show up, suddenly the noise quiets. The doubt decreases. The confidence rises. You're not reacting anymore. You're leading. I've seen this over and over again with people chasing big dreams. They'll tell me, I just don't feel ready. I don't feel confident yet. And I remind them, confidence doesn't come from waiting. Confidence comes from clarity. The moment you know what matters, the moment you know what steps to take. You don't need perfect certainty. You just need the clarity to take the first step. That clarity alone builds momentum, and momentum builds confidence. It's a cycle. So let me challenge you. When was the last time you sat down, looked at your week, and got crystal clear about what would make it a win? Not just what you hope will happen, but what must happen. Too many people wake up Monday and just hope to get through the week. They want to survive it, but clarity shifts the game. With clarity, you don't just survive. You attack the week. You create it. You own it. And here's the beautiful thing. Clarity is available to anyone willing to stop and think. It doesn't require genius. It doesn't require luck. It requires you to sit down and ask better questions. What matters most this week? What would make me feel proud by Friday? What can I do to advance my goals? Not just maintain my busy work. Ask those questions every Sunday night or Monday morning. And suddenly your week transforms. Without clarity, the week feels heavy. Every decision feels like a burden. Every distraction feels tempting. And you constantly wonder if you're even doing the right thing. With clarity, the week feels light. You're focused, you're intentional, and you know when to say yes and when to say no. That alone brings you confidence, because confidence isn't just believing in yourself, it's believing in the direction you've chosen. The greatest gift of clarity is peace of mind. When you're clear, you're no longer wrestling with endless doubt. You don't waste energy second-guessing yourself. Instead, you use that energy to execute, to show up with enthusiasm, to engage with the people around you. And that's what people feel. They feel your certainty, they feel your confidence, and it inspires them. So many people are waiting for confidence to show up like it's a reward that magically appears after they've succeeded. But confidence doesn't work that way. Confidence is built at the beginning, not the end. It's built when you plan, when you commit, when you say, this is what I'm going to do. And then you follow through. That's the kind of confidence that grows week after week until it becomes part of your identity. If you want to live a life of momentum, if you want to stop feeling like you're chasing your tail, if you want to finally feel like you're moving towards something meaningful, you must plan your week. And when you do, don't just write down tasks, write down priorities, write down purpose, write down what success will look like this week. That clarity will give you the confidence to walk into Monday, not as a victim of your calendar, but as the architect of your life. Clarity is what makes you decisive. Clarity is what makes you consistent. Clarity is what makes you confident. And confidence, my friends, changes everything. Let's get real about something that most people don't like to admit. Time doesn't manage itself. You've probably heard the phrase time management thrown around everywhere. But here's the truth. You can't manage time. Time is going to move, whether you do anything with it or not. The real question is, are you managing yourself within time? Are you taking ownership of your minutes, your hours, your days? Or are you letting the world take over your calendar and dictate your life? Here's what happens. If you don't plan your week, other people's agendas will run it for you. You'll wake up, check your phone, and immediately you're reacting. Emails, messages, notifications, people asking for things, people telling you what they need. And if you don't have your own plan, their plan becomes your plan. Before you know it, your entire week is spent answering, helping, fixing, running around. And by Friday, you wonder, wait, what did I even accomplish for myself? And that's the trap. When you don't own your time gets owned. Think about it. If you don't set a meeting with yourself to decide what matters, someone else will gladly fill that slot with what matters to them. If you don't choose when to rest, you'll burn out because other demands won't stop. If you don't decide when to work on your dreams, you'll spend all your hours working on someone else's. Time doesn't care. It keeps moving. If you don't step in with intention, time becomes a thief. It takes your focus, your opportunities, your energy, and you won't even realize it until it's gone. Now, I'm not saying you should be rigid, robotic, or obsessed with controlling every second. Life has flow. Emergencies happen, surprises pop up. But let's be honest, most of what steals your time isn't an emergency. It's distraction. It's scrolling. It's busy work. It's giving yourself away to tasks that don't move you forward. Without a plan, those distractions multiply. But with a plan, you catch them before they catch you. Here's the shift. Time management isn't about squeezing more into your day. It's about prioritizing what actually matters. It's about asking, what will move me closer to my vision this week? What deserves my energy? What should I say yes to? And what should I say no to? Because if you don't define those boundaries, your calendar will be filled with things that don't reflect your values, your goals, or your future. People often tell me, I just don't have time. And I look them straight in the eye and say, no, you're not managing your time. You're not taking ownership of your hours. Because here's the truth, you have time. You have the same 24 hours as every other person on the planet. The difference is how you're directing it. The difference is whether you're living by design or by default. The most powerful people in the world don't have more hours than you. They just use their hours with greater intention. They schedule their priorities, not just their obligations. They carve out time for deep work, time for relationships, time for health, and they guard those blocks of time like treasure. That's why they move forward while everyone else feels stuck. It's not luck, it's ownership. So let me ask you, who's in charge of your week right now? Are you in charge? Or is your boss, your coworkers, your friends, the news, social media? Because if you don't choose, they'll choose for you. And the longer you let that happen, the further you drift from the life you really want. When you plan your week, you're reclaiming your power. You're saying, this is my time, and I will use it to build the future I desire. That's not selfish. That's necessary. Because when you manage your time well, you actually show up better for others. You're more present, more energized, more focused. But when your time is constantly stolen, you show up stressed, tired, distracted, and nobody wins. It's funny. People think structure kills freedom, but it's the opposite. Structure creates freedom. When you plan your week, you're not restricting your life, you're liberating it. You're freeing yourself from the chaos of constant reaction. You're freeing yourself from the anxiety of not knowing what's next. You're freeing yourself from the regret of wasted time. With a plan, you move into your week with intention, with focus, with peace. Time doesn't manage itself. It's neutral. It doesn't care whether you waste it or invest it. But you should care. Because how you use your time is how you use your life. Every week is a deposit into your legacy. Every hour is a decision about who you're becoming. The question is, are you making those decisions consciously, or are you letting someone else make them for you? If you want to change your life, start with your week. If you want to feel more alive, start with your calendar. Plan it, protect it, prioritize it. Because the people who thrive aren't the ones who find the time. They're the ones who make it. Time doesn't manage itself. You must manage you. And the week ahead is waiting for you to step up and take charge. Here's the truth that separates people who succeed from those who struggle. Progress doesn't happen by accident. You don't stumble into greatness. You don't randomly wake up one day, look around and say, wow, I've achieved everything I dreamed of. Progress is not a lucky break. Progress is intentional. It's the result of choosing with clarity to move forward in specific meaningful ways. And if you want this week, this month, this year to mean something, you have to stop leaving progress up to chance. You have to make it intentional. Think about it. When was the last time you ended a week and felt truly proud? Proud not just because you stayed busy, but because you made real, meaningful progress toward your goals. That doesn't happen by filling your calendar with random activities. It happens because you deliberately decided, these are the priorities, this is what I will accomplish. That kind of progress requires intention, and intention requires planning. Too many people confuse being busy with making progress. They run around all week, answering emails, taking calls, sitting in endless meetings, and at the end of it, they collapse on the couch thinking, I worked so hard, but I don't feel any closer to where I want to be. That's because busyness is not the same as progress. Busyness is activity. Progress is direction. Progress is momentum toward a vision. And the only way you can make sure your activity is aligned with your vision is to plan it. Here's the power of intention. It takes you out of reaction mode and puts you in creation mode. Most people wake up and spend the day reacting to texts, reacting to what shows up in their inbox, reacting to whatever problem lands on their desk. And when you live in reaction mode, you might get through the day, but you don't move forward. Intention flips that script. It says, I already know what matters. I already know what deserves my focus. Everything else will fit around that. That shift transforms your week. The most successful people don't have fewer problems or fewer distractions than you. They just have greater intention. They start the week knowing these are the three things that matter most. If nothing else happens, if everything else goes sideways, these are the three wins I will secure. That's what planning with intention looks like. You define progress in advance. You decide what success means before the chaos begins. And that intention becomes your anchor when everything else tries to pull you off track. I want you to think of your week like a road trip. If you just jump in the car, start driving, and say, I'll figure it out. Maybe you'll discover something interesting, but chances are you'll waste a lot of gas, a lot of time, and a lot of energy going in circles. But if you get clear on the destination, map it out, and start driving with intention, you'll get there faster, with less stress, and more joy along the way. That's the difference between wandering through your week and planning your week with purpose. And here's something powerful. Progress itself creates motivation. When you see yourself moving forward, even in small ways, you get energy, you get excited, you start to believe again. But without intention, you don't experience that. You're just grinding, doing random tasks, and you feel exhausted without fulfillment. Intention is what creates those wins that fuel your spirit. Ask yourself, what does progress look like for me this week? Is it finishing a project that's been hanging over me? Is it making that call I've been avoiding? Is it carving out time to work on my health or my relationships? Define it clearly. Because when you define progress, you take away the vagueness that kills motivation. Suddenly, you're not just working hard, you're working on something that matters. That's what keeps you going when things get tough. And here's the part most people forget. Intention requires saying no. You can't make progress if you're saying yes to everything. Progress means choosing priorities, and priorities mean making trade-offs. It means being bold enough to say, that's not my focus right now. It means protecting your calendar from distractions that look urgent but don't actually move you forward. And yes, that can be uncomfortable, but you'll never reach your full potential if you're always living for everyone else's priorities. Progress is intentional because you chose what matters most, even when it was hard. At the end of the week, what do you want to feel? Do you want to feel exhausted and scattered or accomplished and fulfilled? That feeling is not random. It's the result of whether you set intention at the start. If you chose what mattered, protected it, and made it happen, you'll end the week proud. If you didn't, you'll end the week disappointed. It's that simple. So stop waiting for progress to show up. Stop hoping that somehow by the end of the week you'll magically feel fulfilled. Progress requires intention. And intention requires planning. When you plan your week with intention, you stop living by default and start living by design. You stop drifting and start directing. You stop hoping and start creating. Because the truth is, your dreams don't care about your excuses. Your goals don't care how busy you were. Your vision doesn't care how many distractions you faced. It only cares whether you made progress. And progress only happens when you're intentional. So this week, don't just be busy, be intentional. Don't just fill your schedule, fill it with purpose. Because when you make progress with intention, you build a life that feels meaningful, powerful, and alive. Momentum is one of the most underrated forces in life. People think motivation is what carries them forward, but motivation is fleeting. You can wake up fired up one day and drained the next. Momentum, though, that's what keeps you going when the excitement wears off. Momentum is the energy you generate by consistently following through. And it doesn't just happen. You manufacture it. You create it through planning and intentional action. And if you want to live a life of achievement and joy, you must understand how to build and protect your momentum. Here's the truth. Momentum is built in the small, consistent actions you take, not in the giant dramatic bursts. Everyone loves the idea of the big breakthrough, that one massive moment that changes everything. But the real breakthroughs come from momentum, showing up again and again, day after day, week after week, with clarity and consistency. That's how athletes win championships. That's how entrepreneurs build companies. That's how anyone builds a life they're proud of. It's not one big moment, it's momentum. But momentum doesn't just show up. It's not something you wake up with by accident. It's something you manufacture by design. That's why planning your week is so critical. Because when you plan, you create rhythm. You line things up in order. So when you knock down the first task, the next one follows, and the next one, and the next. Without that sequence, without that rhythm, you're starting and stopping constantly. And every time you stop, every time you reset, you lose energy, you lose focus, you lose momentum. Think about pushing a car. At first, it takes a ton of effort just to get it moving. But once it's rolling, the effort required to keep it moving is far less. That's momentum. And your life works the same way. If you're starting from a dead stop every Monday because you didn't plan, it's exhausting. But if you begin the week already lined up, already clear, already moving, suddenly everything feels easier. That's the gift of momentum. It multiplies your energy and reduces your resistance. Now, let's be real. Life is full of obstacles. Things go wrong. Distractions appear. Plans get disrupted. That's normal. But here's the key. When you have momentum, you can absorb those hits and keep going. Without momentum, every little setback feels crushing. With momentum, setbacks are just bumps on the road. You hit them, you adjust, and you keep rolling. That resilience is only possible because you've built enough speed, enough rhythm, enough consistency to not be derailed by small things. So how do you manufacture momentum? First, you create clarity on what matters most this week. Then you break those goals into small, manageable steps. And then you commit to consistency, not perfection, consistency, because momentum doesn't care if you had a perfect day. It cares if you kept going. It cares if you showed up again. If you missed a step, fine. Momentum is forgiving if you return quickly. But if you stop completely, if you abandon your plan, momentum disappears and you're back at zero. That's why planning your week is non-negotiable. It's how you keep your train moving forward. Momentum also requires you to celebrate small wins. Too often, people only celebrate when the big goal is achieved. But that's too far away. You need to recognize progress along the way. Every task completed, every priority honored, every promise kept, that's fuel. When you acknowledge it, you create positive reinforcement that keeps you going. That's part of manufacturing momentum, feeding it, sustaining it, protecting it. Another piece of momentum is environment. If you surround yourself with chaos, distraction, and negativity, your momentum will always stall. But if you design an environment that supports your progress, your schedule, your workspace, your relationships, you'll find it easier to stay consistent. Planning your week includes planning your environment, deciding what to avoid, what to protect, and what to prioritize. Now, here's the beautiful thing about momentum. It compounds. The more you show up, the more confident you feel. The more confident you feel, the bolder actions you take. The bolder actions you take, the greater results you create. And the greater results you create, the stronger your momentum becomes. It's a virtuous cycle. Momentum builds on itself until you're unstoppable. But you don't get there by chance. You get there by starting with one clear, intentional week and then stacking another and another. Think about the seasons in your life where you felt unstoppable. Maybe you were crushing it at work, or your health was improving every day, or your relationships were thriving. What was really happening? You had momentum. You had created a rhythm where every action supported the next. And if you reflect honestly, you'll realize that momentum started with a decision, with intention, with a plan. It didn't just fall into your lap. You manufactured it. And that means you can do it again. No matter where you are right now, no matter how stuck or stagnant you feel, you can generate momentum this week. All it takes is clarity, consistency, and follow through. It takes you sitting down and saying, here are the priorities. Here's when I'll work on them. Here's how I'll follow through. Then you get to work and you keep going, even when you don't feel like it. That's how momentum is born. So stop waiting for motivation. Motivation is nice, but it's fickle. Momentum is better. Momentum is reliable. Momentum will carry you farther than motivation ever will. But you have to manufacture it. You have to plan for it. And when you do, your weeks will stop feeling like a constant uphill battle and start feeling like a downhill roll, faster, smoother, and more exhilarating than you ever thought possible. That's the power of momentum. And that's why you must plan your week, because momentum isn't given, it's created. Most people don't realize how much their energy is affected by their lack of structure. They think they're tired because they work too hard, or they didn't sleep enough, or life is just overwhelming. But often the real reason they're exhausted is because they're living in chaos. They're waking up without a plan, stumbling through their days, reacting to everything, and their brain is constantly on overdrive trying to figure out what's next. That drains more energy than almost anything else. The truth is, energy doesn't just come from sleep or food, it comes from structure. And when you plan your week, you free up massive amounts of energy you didn't even know you were losing. Let's break this down. Imagine you wake up Monday morning with no plan. The first thing your brain has to do is start making decisions. What should I do first? Should I check my email? Should I handle that project? Should I go to the gym now or later? All those micro decisions pile up and you haven't even started working yet. That's called decision fatigue, and it kills your energy. But when you've already planned your week, when you know what matters, when you know exactly where to focus, you don't waste that energy. You channel it, you wake up and get moving because the decisions are already made. That's how structure fuels energy. Without structure, every day feels heavier. You're carrying the mental load of too many open loops, too many unfinished tasks, too many shoulds floating around in your mind. And when your mind is cluttered, your energy is scattered. Planning your week is like decluttering your brain. You take all those tasks, ideas, and responsibilities out of your head, put them on paper, and organize them. Suddenly you're lighter, you're clearer, you're free to focus on the actual doing instead of the constant worrying. That freedom creates energy. Another reason structure gives you energy is because it reduces stress and anxiety. Stress isn't just about how much you have to do, it's about feeling like you have no control. When your week is a mystery, when you're just hoping you'll get to everything, stress skyrockets. But when you see your week laid out, when you know what's happening, and when you breathe easier, you realize, I've got this. And that calm confidence doesn't just feel good, it energizes you. Because anxiety drains, but clarity fuels. Now, some people push back and say, but planning feels restrictive. I don't want to be boxed in by a schedule. And I get it. Nobody wants to feel trapped. But planning doesn't trap you. It frees you. Think of it this way. If you have a clear plan for the week, you don't have to think about work all the time. You don't have to stress at dinner about what you forgot. You don't have to stay up late wondering what tomorrow will look like. You can actually relax because you know you've already structured your time. That's not a cage, that's freedom. And freedom gives you energy. Here's another piece. When you plan your week, you can intentionally schedule activities that recharge you. Most people wait until they're completely burned out before they think, I should probably rest. But if you plan, you can build in recovery before burnout happens. You can set aside time for exercise, for family, for fun, for reflection. Those things don't just happen, they're chosen. And when you choose them, when you put them in your calendar, you create balance. And balance is energy. Energy also comes from momentum. And momentum comes from structure. Think about how much energy you feel when you're in the zone, when you're on a roll. That's not random. That's because you had a structure that allowed you to line things up and move seamlessly from one to the next. Without structure, you keep stopping and starting, and that stop-start pattern is exhausting. With structure, you flow, you conserve energy instead of constantly burning it. And here's something most people don't realize. The energy you bring to your week doesn't just affect you. It affects everyone around you. When you're frazzled, disorganized, and stressed, people feel it. Your coworkers, your family, your friends, they absorb that energy. But when you're calm, focused, and intentional, they feel that too. You become someone who uplifts the room instead of draining it. And that's not just about personality, it's about structure. Because structure allows you to show up at your best. If you want to feel more alive, more vibrant, more capable, stop waiting for energy to magically appear. Create it. And the way you create it is by structuring your time, by planning your week, by deciding in advance what matters and when it will happen. That structure liberates your mind, lowers your stress, fuels your focus, and gives you the stamina to keep going. So let me challenge you. The next time you feel tired, don't just reach for coffee. Don't just blame it on your workload. Ask yourself, did I plan my week? Did I give myself the gift of structure? Because if you didn't, chances are your fatigue is not from working too hard. It's from working without direction. Structure is energy. Structure is freedom. Structure is the secret weapon of people who seem to have boundless vitality. They're not superhuman, they're just organized. They planned, and that planning allowed them to conserve energy for the things that truly matter. If you want more energy, plan your week. If you want more focus, plan your week. If you want more freedom, plan your week, because your energy doesn't just depend on your body, it depends on your structure. And when your structure is strong, your energy soars. At the end of the day, it's not just about getting things done. It's not just about being productive or checking boxes. What really matters is whether the way you spent your week aligned with who you are and what you value. That alignment, that beautiful harmony between your actions and your purpose is what creates fulfillment. You can have the busiest week of your life and still feel empty if you weren't working on things that truly mattered. But when your week is designed with alignment, when your calendar reflects your values and your goals, you feel alive, you feel proud, you feel on purpose. So many people confuse activity with meaning. They think if I'm busy, I must be doing something important. But busyness without alignment just creates exhaustion. You can spend all week running from one thing to another and collapse on Friday feeling depleted, not fulfilled. Why? Because deep down, you know you weren't living your truth. You were living by other people's agendas. You were chasing tasks, not purpose. And no amount of busyness can ever fill that hole. That's why planning your week isn't just about efficiency. It's about alignment. When you plan, you get to pause and ask the deeper questions. Does this week reflect what I care about most? Am I making time for my family, my health, my growth, my dreams, or am I letting the urgent drown out the important? Those questions matter because without them, life slips by. You look back and realize you gave years to things that didn't matter, but when you ask those questions every week, when you align your schedule with your soul, life feels meaningful. Think about the last time you felt truly fulfilled. Maybe it was a week where you spent real time with your loved ones. Maybe it was when you finally made progress on a passion project. Maybe it was when you served others in a way that mattered. Whatever it was, I guarantee it wasn't random. It happened because consciously or unconsciously, you aligned your actions with your values. And you can do that every week if you plan for it. Alignment also brings integrity. Too many people feel out of integrity because they say they value one thing, but their calendar tells another story. They say family matters, but there's no time blocked for family. They say health matters, but workouts are always the first thing canceled. They say their dreams matter, but their dreams never make it onto the schedule. That gap between words and actions eats at your soul. But when you plan your week with alignment, you close that gap. You bring integrity back into your life. And that integrity gives you peace, pride, and confidence. The beautiful thing is that alignment doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean every moment is bliss. It means the overall direction of your week reflects who you want to be. Maybe you still have tough meetings, long days, or challenges to face, That's life. But when those challenges are part of a bigger picture that aligns with your values, they feel worth it. Struggle without purpose feels like suffering. Struggle with purpose feels like growth. Alignment is what transforms the hard parts into meaningful parts. Another gift of alignment is presence. When you know your week reflects your priorities, you can actually be present in the moment. You're not sitting at dinner with your kids thinking about unfinished work. You're not at the gym feeling guilty about what you should be doing instead. You're not constantly torn in 1,000 directions. Why? Because you already planned. You already aligned. And that gives you permission to be where you are fully. That presence is fulfillment in real time. Alignment also creates confidence in the long game. Too many people live week to week, always busy, but never certain if it's leading anywhere. That uncertainty is draining. But when you align your weekly actions with your long-term vision, you know you're on the right path. Even if progress is slow, even if results take time, you feel confident because you're aligned. You trust the process. You trust yourself. And that confidence is priceless. And here's something powerful. Alignment isn't just about you. When you live in alignment, you inspire others. People feel your clarity, your authenticity, your purpose. They see that you're not just working hard, you're working on what matters. That example lifts others. It gives them permission to seek alignment in their own lives. In that way, your weekly plan isn't just a personal tool, it's a ripple effect that impacts everyone around you. So ask yourself, if someone looked at my calendar for this week, would they see my values? Would they see evidence of what I say matters most? Or would they just see busyness, obligations, and distractions? That answer will tell you whether you're aligned. And if you're not, the good news is you can fix it. Every new week is a fresh chance to realign, to choose again, to design your life with intention. Because at the end of your life, you won't measure it by how many tasks you completed. You'll measure it by how aligned you lived. Did you love? Did you grow? Did you serve? Did you spend your time on what truly mattered? That's fulfillment. And it doesn't come someday. It comes in the weeks you design right now. So don't just plan for productivity. Plan for alignment. Don't just organize tasks. Organize your life around what matters. When you do, your weeks stop feeling like a blur and start feeling like a blessing. And that's the ultimate reason to plan your week. Because alignment builds fulfillment.